so to speak, to the full explanation of the principle of tzelem. The principle of tzelem, how it applies to the Avedas for the Neshama, Aveda Milmato. And then how this is actually true within the Aveda of the Neshama itself. That in the Avedas HaOdom, the tzelem principle is the relating directly to Elokus, not via the faculties of the seichel and midas, but a direct relationship. This is the tzelem. And in Avedas HaOdom, this is the principle of tephilah. This is the principle of tephilah. Tephilah has to precede Torah. In order that Torah should have, the Ayin should represent Elokus, it has to be tephilah first. Tephilah is where a person becomes close to Elokus, to Hashem. Once he's close to Hashem, so whatever he learns it from that perspective. Now this is a godly Torah, not a worldly Torah. And therefore, by this learning, he reveals Elokus in the world. This is a very significant combination. The Torah does speak about the world, and that gives directives in the world, but it gives directives in the world not from a worldly perspective, but from a godly perspective. And this is how Torah is mevared the world actually. And thus, Torah, if in the proper approach, Torah is actually representing the tzelem eliki in the world. To put it in very simple terms, if I may, Torah describes the world in the setting, in the perspective. And he's the creator of the world, standing right there. How would you look at the world under these circumstances? Where the Melech himself is standing right there. Not how this would be reflected after he gave you directives and gave you commands and so on. His very presence is there. This is the tzelem, this is the etzem of Torah. What validates, what gives the Torah presence? There is a Melech right there, the etzem. And this Indian that there is the Melech, the etzem himself is there, is not merely, he's there, so therefore you have to obey him. Because his presence is there, the entire Metzius of the world is redefined in a different context. Like you pointed out, this is a clear clearly demonstrated by the idea. They said there is the host and there is a guest, and the host is serving a meal to the guest. If the guest pays attention to the meal, he's missing the whole point. The whole meal is representative of the presence of the host. And if he says that he focuses on the meal, which is conceivable. He says, okay, I have a beautiful meal, thank you. He packs it up and goes home. Then clearly he's completely missing the whole point. As a matter of fact, it's an insult. The whole value of the host is because he can serve you a meal. And the other way around, he said the host leaves. In other words, the meal in the presence of the host, excuse me, is the presence of the host, not the meal. The reason there is a meal is because there is a presence of the host, not the other way around. Why is there a meal in the presence of the host? It is that the host is really like a melech, has a broader presence than himself. Everything around him is his business, so to speak, is his, and it is an emanation from him. And this is why he is giving a meal. He is feeding his own creatures, which is a clear, besides being obligation, a clear allusion to his being the creator. Like we said the other day, it is not out of kindness that he feeds the world. It's his world.
What's the difference there? It's not out of kindness, it's his will.
Well, you have to think.
Okay.
I'll let you think and then you tell me.
It's not separate from him.
Huh?
It's not separate from him.
If somebody has a child, it's his child, but there's still the need to feed him, feed the child. The key point is not the provision, not providing of the food, but that it's his.
Right. This is a very fine point which eludes us in all kinds of different settings that I'm trying to demonstrate. And he meets us sooner or later we're going to get it. I'm going to go completely off topic, but something which we discussed previously. The worldly logic is there's a presence in the world, and then you ask the question: is a presence? Where did it come from? And then you go logically and start explaining how it came. There's an interesting phenomenon that we've mentioned many times. Avraham Avinu never did ask that question. Why not? He asked, where is the balabos? Didn't ask, where does the world come from? Why? Because the question where the world comes from is applicable only if you have an insignificant world. It makes no sense. What is this all about? Like I said the other day, you have a cup on the table. The table and the cup have no relationship. There's nothing real about it. So, how did it get here? But if you see a living world, it has significance. The question over here is, clearly it represents a living balabos. I'm looking only for the living balabos.
To remain on this call, press 1.
I'll give him another chance.
Returning to the conference room.
It's a completely different approach. But I see a rock. Who brought the rock? I see a human being. Who brought the human being? It doesn't fit. The human being is a real presence. He belongs here. Reality and the human being is one and the same thing. This is the pshat. You say that Atzmus, I said, going back to the host and same thing, Atzmus gives presence to the world, not as a separate thing. The world actually, if there is the godly truth has brought about that he should reveal himself in the form of a world, and it is representative of him. How is the world representative of him, as we speak all the time? The world is in fact representative of infinity, of a profound truth. It's not a world. As we said many times, wherever you turn, you see an infinite quality.
Again, so he makes the world representative of him, and it is infinity, and it's not a world. It's not just world. Is that the point?
Right, it says him in the worldly form. This is tzelem,
Okay.
in the worldly form. But it is him. Okay, so let's continue. ve-hinay, I said we're in the second section on page AyinBase 5. ve-hinay calls this entire explanation of Betzalmenu and so forth. This is following through on the basis of what has been explained previously, the Tzura Atzmis, that the principle of Tzura Atzmis, Tzura Atzmis, the whole thing of Tzura, because of the person, Betzalmenu. Betzalmenu means a Tzura, but Tzalmenu is called a Tzura Atzmis, not an add-on form, but a Tzura Atzmis. What Tzura Atzmis means? The Etzem itself formulates itself to represent itself, it formulates itself in this Tzura. This means Tzura Atzmis. To understand this is extremely difficult, but just want to bring the principle that we always bring down. The human form is not an add-on to the human being, what the human being is. The reason that he stands upwards, and that his head is on the top, and that in his head all the koiches and final koiches of the human being are contained in the head. Because this is what he stands for. This is the human being. This is not something that describes a human being. This is the human being. Das mit Tzura Atzmis. So we explain Tzura Atzmis hu bechinas ho etzem mamash. The Tzura Atzmis, this is the aspect of the etzem mamash, means the etzem itself. Lo yirag bechinas ho'ir ve'hagil. Not only the oir aspect and the gilui aspect, in other words, the expression and the revelation of the etzem, but it is the etzem itself. Das mit Tzura Atzmis, which is a phenomenal concept. But nevertheless, we say the etzem. The etzem is mitztaya. The etzem puts itself in that form of teirun shomus.
Is a reflexive formulation of the word.
Huh?
It formulates itself. That's
right.
the meaning.
It formulates itself. Right. Mitztayir. Torah and the Neshamas are not an extraneous presence from the Etzem. The presence of the Etzem takes that form of Torah and Neshamas. No. However, okay, as I mentioned before, we were coming to something which we discussed many times, an extremely subtle thing, and hopefully we'll get through with it, or not to get through with it, or get it. Bechinas oir ho'atzmi, the bechina of the oir ho'atzmi. What oir ho'atzmi we already discussed, and here's what is going to be presented to us. That bechina, which is called oir ho'atzmi, hu gam kein bebchinas tzura atzmis. That too also has the quality of tzura atzmis. In other words, even though this is oir, so you would say that this is something which is extraneous to the etzem. So you have to understand, no, it's not true. The oir atzmi is also tzura atzmis, which means it goes together with the etzem. The harei, since that, iker inyan tzura, what is ultimately the principal aspect of tzura, hu bechinas hagil. Tzura is ultimately the inyan of gil, loy ho'etzem. The principle of tzura is how you look at it, how you observe it. Observation means, this is the gilui, how the etzem is recognized, is represented, is showing itself. Therefore, the iker inyan of tzura, even though, as we said, that etzem can formulate itself in a tzura, but the principle of tzura is not the etzem, but the gilui. The gilui of the etzem. Okay, let's give us a chance over here. Rak, except hagilui shuhu bechinas oir atzmi, the gilui that has the quality of being an oir atzmi, a primary oir, the hain, which would mean hadovuk umiyuchad b'ho'etzem. The oir atzmi means the oir that cleaves, that stays connected, umiyuchad, and united with the etzem. When you say dovuk, we can understand. Dovuk means that the etzem does not reject the oil at all, and the etzem allows the oil to be connected. Miyuchad is even a deeper principle. Miyuchad means that it unites with the etzem so that there is no distinguishing factor between the etzem and the oil. Again, this will be developed and he'll explain to us. Okmoi, as in the case of Shmi, my name. What is Shmi, my name? Again, Hamiyuchad be, that is united with me. As we said many times, we already entered this paragraph before, that there is Shem HaToyer and Shem HaEtzem. Shem HaToyer means Toyer means an adjective, a descriptive name. Shem HaEtzem means the essence itself. And we pointed out, we ought to try and sense the significance of this. It said Adam HaRishon was instructed by Hashem to give names to all the animals. Hashem brought all the animals in front of Adam HaRishon, but he gave them names. And it says the name as Adam HaRishon has
To
given
remain
him,
on this call, press 1.
the name that Adam HaRishon gave to the animals, Hu Shmoi, this is its name. What's the pshat over here? Please understand, it means the following. The world is a godly creation. And therefore, if we talk about the essence of the world is only that which represents the godly presence. Who in the world represents the godly presence? The human being. The animals don't represent the godly presence. The animals have a secondary value for some kind of a purpose. Who needs the animal now? But who is going to utilize that purpose? The human being. So that way, Adam Rishon was given so to speak, this position, this right. He names the animals. He identifies the value of the animals from his perspective, because that's what the animals have to serve the human being. They don't have their own service to God, so to speak. They serve God by serving the human being. And it says that in certain animals there was a sus. Sus means a horse. What is the nature of a horse?
Joy. Joy. So.
Right. That and the nature of the horse is small. Please. The nature of the horse is that it has a tremendous enthusiasm. You arouse it to run, and he runs with tremendous enthusiasm. That is the name that Adam Rishon gave it. Of course, the horses, like they hit the horses, they should run faster. And every animal was named by Adam Rishon in its presentation and its use to the human being, because that, in fact, is its place in the world. Except for the human being. The human being, he has a primary presence in the world. The human being was named by the Creator himself. I'm not going to go into this, which we discussed many times. So here's what we have. We have this. We have the name. Adam Rishon names all the animals. On what basis? This is not a Shem or Etzem. The animal does not have an Atzmi presence. Doesn't have a Shem or Etzem. Doesn't have a primary name. It has a functional name. That's what all the animals are. The human being, he has a primary name. At what point? At the point of birth. He has a primary name.
Functional name describes like an attribute, let's say.
Yeah, but how what contribution they give.
Right, and this essential name, it's a little harder to think of what that's doing.
Rashi brings out that the Levim,
being not doing.
Right, being not doing. So the very presence of the human being changed the whole panorama, the whole significance of the world, made the real world. Before Adam Rishon did anything. And we have the example of that in when the Eden were counted. So all the general, the populace, the nation was counted from 20 and on. Why 20 and on? Because Yetzer Hara, he can protect the nation, and this is what a nation is, a protective shield. The Ligan Shel Melech, the Levim, they were counted at what age?
1 month.
1 month old. And what a month? Really should be counted from the day of birth. But birth does not guarantee that this is a valid child, because we don't know whether it's going to survive the first month. Once it's about a month, it's a valid child. It was counted at birth. Because his presence represents the godly presence in the world. He is Ligan Shel Melech. And therefore he was counted from a month old. Legion. Right. So therefore, Shmi, when he says my name means Hamiyuchad me, which is united with me, which means it's inseparable. Because that name is alluding to the reality itself, not to the functional aspect. Similarly, oir ho'atzmi, the atzmi oir, an oir that goes along with the etzem, hu hamiyuchad b'ho'etzem. That is the oil that is meyuchad b'the unites with the etzem, and it is not to be viewed from a functional perspective, but from an essential perspective. Again, this will still be explained and developed. So, oil atzim means hamiyuchad b'etzem, just like the name is miyuchad b'etzem. Harei ho'ir hazeh, and thus, seeing this is the oil that is miyuchad b'etzem. In other words, it's indistinguishable between the etzem and the oil. The oil stands for the very same thing that the etzem stands for. Harei ho'ir hazeh. So thus, this oil, hu b'mchinas tzuro atzmis, qualifies as the tzuro atzmis, which means shehu k'moi ho'etzem, that he is like the etzem itself.
Why did it say k'moi? It's miyuchad.
Because it's oil.
It's what?
It's oil. It's not the etzem. K'moi ho'etzem. This is what the point is, a tzuro atzmis. He has all the qualifications of the etzem, but the etzem. Okay, again, let's give it a chance, and I guarantee things will clarify here. Ve-hinay, which means kasher leyesh dover hamafsik, when there is no interrupting factor. Bein ho'ir v'ho'etzem, between the oil and the etzem, the oz, when then ho'oir hu k'moi ho'etzem. Then the oil is like the etzem. Now, what type of thing would be a mafsik ben ho'el v'ho'etzem? If the oil were to be identified on a functional level, in other words, what the effect of the oil is upon its surrounding. Upon its surrounding. That is already a davar hamafsik. Which means the oil is not seeing itself from the perspective of what it is. It's seeing itself from the perspective of what's effect is. That's already a davar hamafsik. There's no davar hamafsik means that the oil is identifying itself for what it is, just like the etzem identifies itself for what it is. Even though this is oil, this is giui, which means it is revealing. It has a functional effect, but that's not what defines it. Its functional effect is by bringing the etzem to bear. It is not the effect upon the recipient.
Bring the etzem to bear?
Yeah, to have a presence. Not the effect that it has upon the recipient. Again, I'm pointing out certain points. Everything will come together in Mitzvah Shem.
But this line is coming to add something in addition to what was previously said, because isn't the definition of an er atzmi, which is dabak umiyuchad, that there is nothing mafsik?
Right? I explained what is Dover HaMafsik. If there is any cognizance of anything extraneous, that's a Dover HaMafsik.
But then it wouldn't be an Aratzmi.
That's what he says. Why is it not Dover HaMafsik? Why is it not Dover HaMafsik? Nothing interrupts the oil. There's an extraneous recognition. How the oil affects this extraneous, this is already Dover HaMafsik. It is an oil. It is an oil come directly from the Yetzer. But there is a Dover HaMafsik.
So is this comparable to man? And on one hand, he represents something Asmi Elokus, but yet he also has function. No?
Let's not jump the gun. Let's see what the Rebbe explains here. Kasher lo yesh Dover HaMafsik. I only stop to explain what is the meant by the word Dover HaMafsik. Ben ho'er v'ho'etzem. Etzem is that which is aware, so to speak, of only itself. And just want to add, it sounds like very selfish and self-contained and self-focused and egoistic. Etzem is aware of itself only because Etzem is aware of only that type of truth as Etzem is. It's a fundamental truth. Like the Rambam says, Motzui Rishain, a first being. A first being is aware only of its being. Which means that its presence is not identified by the fact that it has an effect. It's very difficult for us even to conceptualize it, because we think of everything in Seichel. For sure, Seichel has a structure, has a beginning and a development. Motzei, this is where the whole problem in the world came from, because it couldn't conceptualize the idea of Motzei. Huh?
Which problem came from this?
The whole perception of the world, the structure, the evolutionary concept, all of this Mishudas.
It's a das.
It's a das. It's what initiated it.
And based on what? Because you cannot conceptualize, you cannot
Because
accept.
if you want to conceptualize in Seichel, the absolute truth, it's impossible. This is why when Eden received the Torah, what did they say first and foremost? Nasa. How do we get the presence of God in our midst? By having this presence over here, not through our process, through the process of our Seichel. That was why Seichel, we're not going to get the presence of God. And how do we get it through Nasa? Because he tells us what to do exactly. And we follow through on that. That's how we have a godly presence. If we were to figure out on our own, what would be appropriate behavior? That's not the godly presence. That's very fine human morals, but it's not the godly presence.
And the point we were making that was beyond conception was that you may say at first glance it seems egotistical, self-involved, but Etzem only thinks about, is only concerned with himself. Was that?
That's not concern.
Fine.
I put it in our worldly point. There's no concern. There is only one reality in Etzem.
Etzem has, so for Etzem there's only one reality. I never got that, and I still don't.
It's not an
Don't know
insult.
what that's really.
What?
I've heard this before, and I never really got it, and I don't know what it's telling right now. That because it would seem like the opposite.
1 second. Stop.
Okay.
Stop. We have a world. This world clearly has to have had an beginning, right? An igniter. Who ignited it? How did he get ignited?
Okay. Let's see what you show first.
What?
A first being, right?
How did the first being get ignited?
You don't go there, right?
Why not?
It's beyond my pay scale.
That's because why do we don't go there? Because this is something which is beyond our conceptualization. We can conceptualize it, but this is the reality. Our duty is to look at the world as coming from a first being, not as the world develops itself.
Okay.
That's all.
Fine.
So you got it. There's nothing that you didn't get.
Fine, but the point what was just made is that his reality is just that reality. The first being has no.
We have no way to understand him, to understand this reality. Yes, we discuss and oil atzmi and so forth, because atzmi means that which is true in itself.
Okay, I'll put
He
it.
has no beginning.
Fine, but I'll put it this way: why not? First being is the opposite of egotistical. His reality, his knowledge covers all reality. So it's not.
Why
just
does it cover
himself,
all realities?
because all is within him. Yeah.
Well, all within him is also could be misleading. It's like it's all his children. His children, he has to attend to his children. That's not that's not what it means. Then there is multiplicity. Why is all within him? We'll come back to this. Yes.
He asked, was asked, why don't we ask him the Mutzerish when was his beginning?
I'm sorry?
Was asked, why don't we ask the Mutzerish when was his beginning?
Yeah.
So he said that we can conceptualize it. Why don't we answer? Because it doesn't have a beginning. It was always.
No, I said these words, but they're not correlated. We don't ask for a beginning because if we ask for a beginning, that's not a Mutzerish.
Mutzerish means that was.
But what is Mutzerish? That we can conceptualize.
Wouldn't the answer be that because the term always still relates to time, but it's always time? The whole concept of time is foreign to etzem. Always implies always time, but still understands the parameter of time. Masha'en kain etzem has nothing. It's irrelevant. Right?
That's true. Always is not an appropriate term, and everywhere and everything is all not appropriate. See, everything and everywhere. It has to be understood from the perspective, why is it everywhere? Why is it everything? Because it's an etzem. And we will come back. We'll come back to these principles.
What was the jumping off point now? What you said something that triggered all this about it.
I said that the etzem is aware only of itself. And our reaction to that is, oh, what a selfish guy.
As opposed to Oyer, which is aware of something else.
Oyer spreads out and bestows its grace.
Only aware of itself doesn't sound so selfish to me.
But
Doesn't sound so selfish to me.
No.
It sounds
how does self sound to you?
like par for the course.
Well, there's nothing but him.
Part of the course.
Yeah, only aware of yourself.
All right. Shmuel, go sit down over there. Go sit down over there.
Why?
Because you here, you can sit down. You don't have to be aware of him. He's not there.
That's right.
Go sit down. Part of the course.
So the way you explain this expression over a mafsi, it's like it's anything that if there's something that could take attention away from etzem itself, this is a davar hamafsik.
Yeah, davar hamafsik, right. Lo yesh davar hamafsik. There is not. It's anything that intervenes between the oil and the etzem, in any which way.
And that a subject that is.
In other words, there is sunlight. Like we're going to come back to this, sunlight, and the sunlight is shedding, is making you see the world. It sheds light on the world. This light that you see, that brings light to the world, this is davar hamafsik. This is a secondary level. This is not the sunlight. It's a davar hamafsik.
The davar hamafsik is the world.
In this case, it is what deflects the light. Its value, its function. No matter how you slice it, it's already not the etzem.
Everything is a davar hamafsik unless it's handled correctly. You have just him, and then there's some specific.
So we say no. We say there is oil atzmi.
Which permeates all. Otherwise, it would be hamafsik.
No. Permeates all is already davar hamafsik.
So then
You're talking about all.
Fine.
Oil atzmi is not permeating anything. It represents the etzem.
So how is not every single thing a davar hamafsik?
That's exactly what I'm saying. If you're talking about a function, illumination is already davar hamafsik.
If you talk about a function, right? But if you talk about anything specific, that's still okay. That's not making
Makes no
a
difference.
separation. It is a problem.
Yeah. Kasher lo yesh davar hamafsik, then it is oil atzmi. The oz ha'oyin hu k'moy ha'etzem, where then the oil is like the etzem itself. What does that mean? The etzem is not touched by anything and doesn't touch anything. The oil also is k'moy ha'etzem. The minute we say these words, we start formulating, we start structuring, and that is when we lose the principle. Why we start structuring? Because seichel is so built. We'll come back to this, as I said, hopefully in Mitzvah. We said many times, Chokhmah is like sight. Sight has no interference. You see something because the thing is there. You don't do mafsik. You don't see it because of its effect upon you. There's no interpretation to sight. Sight is the reality itself. Does that mean there is nothing there to know? No, there is. But that would be how you bring the Chokhmah into your knowledge. And as we always say, no matter how much you know about what you see in Chokhmah, you'll never have the whole thing. Never have the whole thing. A simple example is if you observe something, like we always use the example of the Niagara Falls. You saw the Niagara Falls. Can you possibly get somebody else experience it the same way by describing it?
No.
You describe the speed of the waterfall, how much water falls every second. You describe the whole thing and how it reflects the sunlight and all. Are you going to give him the same experience?
In this case, you're comparing sight to atzmi?
Right. Sight, before sight is seeing the oil, the build more. Okay. So kasha lo yesh davar hamafsik bein oil v'etzem the oz. If there's no davar hamafsik between the oil and the etzem, here is these words which I'd like you to understand. If there's no davar hamafsik between the oil and the etzem, the oz ha'oil hu k'moy ha'etzem. Then the oil is like the etzem. This is when the oil is called the oil atzem. Because normally we translate the words Le'yash Davar HaMafsik, what would you mean? There is no shield, there is no shading, there's no tainted glass between the oil and the mafsik and the. But that's not what it means. Le'yash Davar HaMafsik, there is no extraneous awareness at all. Only the oil. Then the oil is K'may Ho'etz. Then the oil is K'may Ho'etz. Okay. What is the significance of light, of oil, if it does not illuminate?
For us, nothing.
Right? To the Atzmi, it's a lot. It's everything. This is the oil that the Atzmi, that reveals the Atzmi to start with. Because if you're talking about its functionality, you already deviated from the oil Atzmi. The oz ha'oyer hu k'mo yo'etzam. Then the oil is like the yetz. Okay. As we could see, and we're still going to go deeper into it, as we can see, we're talking about extremely subtle, incomprehensible, really, a concept. So what's the point? If it's not comprehensible. The point is that we put it in a very practical. Our presence in the world is not to approximate and to live according to the godly command, but it is to bring the godly presence in the world directly. Not to imitate the world according to God, but have God in the world. This is our function. Mamshich Elokus in the world. This is why it's coming so hard. Because our tendencies, I want to be a good person. What do you want from me? Can't you recognize how good I am? No, that's not good enough. Because if you are so good, you are a separate Metzias, you made yourself. Where's God come into your existence?
So the whole concept of beer on meat days, this is all like type. It's not the meat day.
That is a means, that's a stepping stone to the. Sure. If you have midas with Chassidus, you won't even go there.
The Chassidus spot on the Torah?
Yeah. All right. Here's a classic thing which we discussed many times, and we're going to go into it briefly. At this point, it will not finish today. The Aderech Moshel, as for example, Kmo Oy Veziv Hashemesh, as the light of the sun. So Oy Veziv Hashemesh, Harehu K'moy Hashemesh. The oil Veziv Hashemesh is like the Shemesh itself. What does it mean? Is like the Shemesh itself? Shehu Behiri. How the Shemesh is Behiri, is a bright entity. Be'oil Meir, and the oil shines. Why does the oil shine? Because it represents the shemesh, which is behiri, which is bright.
Sounds like a poetry.
What?
Sounds like a poetry.
Like what?
Look what it says.
Poetry.
What did you say?
I say it sounds like a poetry.
Poetry.
It's very nice.
Are you slept out in L'chaim from this yesterday?
Yeah, I finished.
Yeah, well,
This whole pape's full, I'm telling you.
huh?
This whole pape's full.
Yeah.
Well, that's why you're right.
The principle in these few words, Shuhu Behiri V'Ho'er Meir, is a principle which we discussed many, many times. And again, it really behooves us to understand the implication in these words. The sun does not produce light. The sun brings itself. Its presence, its essence is behiri, is brightness. Like we said many times. Light to the sun is of the same primary presence as darkness to us. Does the world produce darkness?
No, we're just dark.
Huh?
Sometimes it seems that way.
I'm sorry?
Sometimes it seems that way.
No, it is dark.
The world does not produce darkness, as it says right in the beginning of the creation. Didn't say that. It doesn't say the Rebbe said, "Let there be darkness." He created the world, and this is simultaneous. This is one and the same thing. You hear the world, and it's total darkness. The only thing that brightness is up is Ruach Elokim Arachefes Apneham. Ruach Hashem Mashiach was present even there. Otherwise, the world would just sink into darkness. And because Ruach Elokim Arachefes Apneham, Vayim Elokim Yehi Oyer, that had to be. Hakim said, "Let there be light."
But God is or, and when He created the world, He created a separation. He created darkness, and the light. He allowed the light to show through.
Okay, so this is when it says. This is the meaning of this word. The shemesh hu behiri v'ho'er meir. The reason that the oil is meir is not because the oil is meir. It's a functional element. The shemesh produces light to illuminate. The shemesh allows itself to be revealed, and itself is behiri, and therefore that revelation is meir. That is automatic. So it's automatic in the sense that the light represents the shemesh, not representing the functional aspect of the oil. Okay. To be continued in Mitzvah Shem, they say to everyone here, this is not a new principle.
Without the daven, is it fair to say then that one of the things the avodah of tephilah is that we see things, which is mafsik, we see the functional aspect things, we have things. So is the avodah to use the mafsik as a springboard to realize there's an infant etzem? which is beyond functionality. So we're using this world, the things we see, as a way of going beyond the Or HaMafsik. So Or HaMafsik, in a sense, is serving a purpose. It has a function, Or HaMafsik. You see the whole world's here. That's very functional. But the avoided to bring it to feel Elul is using this world as a springboard to get back to our Atzmi. Is that a fair statement? So using the Or HaMafsik itself as a springboard to realize that there's more than a functionality, but to realize there's an etzem, which is beyond, which is Elokus.
I'm not, okay, you probably mean to say that the way to get to certain principles of truth, first you have to be confused. First you try to understand it from your own perspective, your own worldly perspective. And then you realize, but that's not what it is. Because to understand it directly is not possible. You go indirectly. First you understand it wrongly, and then that leads you not to understand it correctly, but focus and recognize that there is something beyond understanding.
Well, the wrong part I definitely have.
Yeah.